Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Classic Video Games, back with another cool arcade game repair video for you today. We are working on, today, this awesome Sega Daytona USA 2 Battle on the Edge arcade game. We've had this for quite a while, and unfortunately it doesn't work. So we're going to go through it, we're going to fix it, and then we're going to sell it. So it's only one of them. This was Sega's cool, huge steel cabinet. I mean, these things are really solid, but they're also really, really heavy. If it weighs 600 pounds, I would not be surprised. As a matter of fact, I'll probably go look it up on the flyer and see how much it weighs. If you don't know about that, if you go look at the original arcade flyers, sometimes on the flyer it tells you the weight of the game if you're ever curious about what something weighs. So we're going to mess with it. It's just a single. We don't have the second cabinet or anything. You can see on the side it's a little filthy, a little cracked up. We're probably not going to replace or fix the cracks or anything. We're just going to work with what we got. But most of all, we need to get it where it's playing well, right? We've also got cracks around the bolts on the seat. All that stuff can kind of be cleaned up a little bit. So this was somewhere where it got a lot of play and just got filthy, beat around a little bit, but we should be able to get it fairly presentable. Battle on the Edge, is that there was an update for Daytona 2, but I can't remember if all the Daytona 2s were called Battle on the Edge or if the update was called Battle on the Edge. We've got a Georgia sticker here. Look, expires June 30th, 2018. I think we bought this. I think we got this at an auction. I can't remember. It's been a while. But it's complete. Look, it's even got some extra pinball bolts that we laid on it. That's one thing about having a broken game in your showroom. It starts being a catch-all. You just lay stuff on it. But I'm going to open it up and we'll look inside of it, and then we'll see what kind of repair work we need. Whew! She is filthy. So this is what we have inside. Somebody's been stepping on the dust on the plate, but we've already messed with it back whenever we got it in to see if it worked right, and it didn't. So the screws are already out of that cover. There is the board set. Power supply. Let's see if this toe board will come off. You folks always make me do everything one-handed. Here's the rest of the goodies. So these screws, it looks like, go in this cover. Boy, we've got a mess here, people. I think that's the soundboard or something. I don't think that's the, that doesn't have anything to do with the game. This is going to be some kind of amp. That's probably something to do with the steering, which is why it has the LEDs on it. Get something else under here that's some kind of amp or motor driver board, and then you've got a transformer back there. So yeah, I would guess that's the soundboard. Original looking power supply. I don't know if it is original, but it sure looks that way. Well, everything looks complete. So we're going to turn it on and see what she does. Alright, so she booted up. It says a little blurry, Model 5, Model S, something. System program for Sega, blah 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 blah. CPU version, PCIe version, communication board downloaded. Backup ran Broken data has detected. Clear. RTC broken down, initialized. NSIC revision 2.0, video board 2 processors. Real-time clock battery voltage is low. Press start or test button to continue. We're also getting error 01 on what I think is the wheel driver board. Okay, all that down at the bottom it says drive board error. Okay, yeah, I remember now. Okay, so the graphics, if you look, all have lines through them. It's up and running. See, that looks fine. That's fine. The heat is back. But the car and all the background stuff has like these black lines through everything. Which, to me, if I was going to guess, that's a RAM problem. Now, when we first got it in, we checked the voltage on the boards to make sure it's getting its 5 volts, and I believe there's like a 3.3 volt that it needs. Let's make sure. Yeah. 5, 3.3, and power. All right, there's also a 12. We checked all of that's getting to the boards, so the power supply is fine. That would be the first thing you'd look at. Power supply is fine. Then we took the board set out, took the boards apart, put them back together, put it back in, didn't fix anything. Then we took the ROMs off, cleaned the legs on the ROMs, put them back, didn't fix anything. So we're leaning towards it's probably a RAM problem. So you can see there's also something going on with the background. See how the background's real blue, but look, when the black comes up, it's not. So it's not the monitor, it's not everything's blue, it's just the image that the board is creating is blue. This is going to be one of the coolest games when we get it going. But we're going to have to cheat to get it going. So I'll show you how you cheat on stuff like this. Okay, folks, so this is how we're going to cheat to repair this game board. We're not going to repair it. We're going to have somebody else do it. And the reason for that is because those things are incredibly complex. Almost everything on them is a surface mount chip, which means that you need special equipment to mount, remove, diagnose. It's way above my pay grade. So luckily for Sega boards that are complex like that, there is a guy that used to work for Sega that now runs his own repair place. He calls it Advanced Repair Center. So it's iRepairSega.com. So if you've got a Sega board, he's the guy to go to. So we're going to email him and see if he's interested in working on this board. I'll bet he is. Oh, and I noticed too before it showed the title screen, it said Power Edition, which is the upgraded version that I was talking about. So apparently that is the upgraded version. So let's see what he says here. It says, Advanced Repair Center, unmatched knowledge of Sega coin-op product, over 9,000 Sega boards repaired in just the last 10 years since ARC has been open, not to mention the tens of thousands while working at Sega. Currently repairing all Sega game boards from Outrun 1986 through Lindbergh Red 2010. Okay, so you got different stuff here. If you click on what I fix, here's the games that he fixes. Airline Pilots, Alien Front, Ambulance, Bass Fishing, Beach Spikers, Brave Firefighters, Club Kart, Capcom vs. SNK, Capcom vs. SNK 2, Confidential Mission, Crazy Taxi High Roller, Daytona, Daytona 2, ta-da! Derby Owners Club, Desert Tank, Dirt Devils, 18-wheeler, F-355, Fighting Vipers, F-Zero, Ghost Squad, Guilty Gear, Gunblade, Harley Davidson, House of the Dead 1, 2, and 3, Indy 500, Initial D, Initial D2, Initial D3, Jambo Safari, Jurassic Park 3's RTC failure, which is pretty common, Konami X-Men, Lethal Enforcers 2, etc.'s custom sound IC recap, which is pretty common, LA Machine Gun, Last Bronx, Lindbergh Platform, Lost World, Magical Truck Adventure, Mannix TT Racing, Marine Fishing, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Maximum Tunes, Maze of Kings, Motor Raid, NASCAR, Ocean Hunter, Outrun Turbo Outrun to eliminate the second CPU. Never heard of that, but I'm sure he knows what he's doing. Outrun 2, Planet Harrier, Police 911, 9112 RTC Failure, Rail Chase 2, Route 66, Sega Rally Championship, Sega Rally 2, Ski Super G, Ski Champ, Sega Touring Car, Sega Water Ski, Silent Scope 1 and 2, Error 11P, whatever that is, Sky Target, Sonic Championship, Soul Surfer, Spike Out, Star Wars Trilogy, Star Wars Racer, which is the pod racer, Strike Fighter, Super GT, Terra Bursts, RTC Error, Top Skater, Triforce F-Zero, VS2K2, Mario Kart, Virtua Golf, Virtua Fighter 2, 3, and 4, Virtua Fighter Evolution, Virtua Cop and 2 and 3, Virtua Racing, Virtua NBA, Virtua Striker 297 through Virtua Striker 3, Virtua Tennis 2, Virtual On 2, Wave Runner GP, Wing War, World Series 99 through 2K1, WWF, Wild Riders, X-Men Konami's Custom Sound IC, and Zombie Revenge. Types of boards: game boards, Type 2 tracking systems, card readers, GD-ROM drives, DIMM boards, Chihiro Microsoft Xbox arcade version core CPU board to component level. Types of rework done in-house: trace damage, corrosion damage, all surface mount of any type. So this is our guy, right? So I'm going to email him. I'm going to tell him what it's doing and see if he can fix it for us. And if he can, we'll see if we can get it off to him. Okay, folks, so I called Ken, and he said send it right on in. He will take care of it. He had me run the ROM and RAM tests on it, and the video board RAM, like, it wouldn't even test them. So he said there should be major problems there. But the boundary test was all right, which he said was a good thing. And so he said the most important thing when you're shipping these in, which I'm sure if you do this with him, he'll tell you the same thing, is put at least like 3 layers of bubble wrap on it. Leave it all together in a big sandwich. Don't try to take each board apart. And then put it in a huge box. So he wants me to put it in like an 18 by 18 by 12 box. So we're going to do that, get it all together. If you make a big box like that, it's probably better to send it FedEx or UPS than the post office, because I've found whenever the package is real big, you get a better rate at FedEx or UPS than the post office. But we'll check all of them and send it in the best way possible. But he said he didn't think it'd be any problem fixing it, so we'll get it all boxed up, sent out to him, and see what he says. We have received our box back. One of the things about shipping these off is you have to put them in a huge box, so they make it there safely and they make it back safely. So we'll open the box up, and we've already checked the voltage on the power supply to make sure it's not too high in the game. We'll pop the board in and see if we get anything better. So I have put it back in the case, put the screws back in the little supports on the side. Like I mentioned, you need to check before you ever do this, though, to make sure. We checked whenever we took it out, but to make sure that your power supply is putting out the right voltages. If you're putting out like 8 volts on your power supply and you plug this in, it could damage the board immediately, and then you have to send it right back, and that would be expensive. So I'm going to plug it in and we'll see what we've got now. Okay, so it's booting. Link ID single, cabinet type twin, USA, difficulty normal. It's saying drive board error, and we are getting an error code down there. We'll look at that here in a second. Okay, folks, we seem to be up and running. Some of those lines you're seeing in the image are just from the camera. In person, I can't see any of that. And so it looks really smooth. Everything looks like it's supposed to. I don't see any issues. Alright, so we'll watch it run for a little bit, but whenever it boots, down here on the bottom we've got an error 01 on the drive board, which I would suppose probably controls the steering. So I'm going to do a little research on that, and we're going to pull that board out and clean the EEPROM, or if I can figure out what error 01 means, see if we can, it might be that one of the potentiometers isn't working right or something. But we got to get that cleared before we can actually play it. And we still have to clean the thing up too, it's filthy. So RTFM, right? Error 01 is a ROM error. Malfunction of drive control board. It says you can replace the drive control board. So I'm just going to try cleaning the ROM first. So it's been down there underneath that footboard. It's probably corroded all the crap. So we're going to pull it out and look at it. This is what we're working with. And it is filthy. So I'm going to try to clean it off. I don't know if I can test that. I don't know if I've got a copy of that EEPROM or not, but I might be able to test it. If it's saying ROM error, it doesn't necessarily mean that the ROM's bad. It just means that the board's not doing anything. Well, I guess if it's given an error, it must somehow be able to tell that it's not reading the ROM. But it could be any of the chips that help it read the ROM or any of that. So worst case scenario, we may have to buy another board, but hopefully not. But we'll see if we can clean it up, get it looking better, and then see if we can look at that EEPROM and clean it. So I was able to clean all the dust off with a little paintbrush. I cleaned up a little bit of the rest of it with a wet paper towel, and then everything actually looks pretty good. Like nothing looks messed up. The EEPROM, I took it apart. Took it off and cleaned the legs. I put it in my chip tester. Downloaded the ROM, compared them, and it says that the EEPROM is good. So we're going to put it back in and see if that fixes it. Alright, as I was putting it back in, there is a wire broke on this connector that goes back there. So it could be that maybe the game board talks to this board, and since it couldn't talk to this board, it thinks that the EEPROM's bad. So I'm going to fix that pin and put it back on before we try it out. Okay folks, so it came up and it said, so the game is up and running. It said that something about that the drive board is initializing, don't touch it, and it jerked around a little bit, and now it says error 20. So we need to figure out what error 20 is. Okay, so error 20 is just kind of a generic error. It says initialization setting irregularity of motor. Irregularity during initialization setting movement. Finish initialization setting movement by turning power off and then on. Note that when error is displayed, the malfunctioning relates to the motor system. So the motor system is either the motor itself, the drive control board, which controls the motor, the drive board, the wirings in between, etc. So we need to, I need to look at that pin that I replaced and make sure that that could be something where we got two things going on, where the ROM error really was the ROM and I fixed it, but now we've got error 20 because of that wire that I fixed. So I don't know. It did try to turn to the left a little bit and turn to the right a little bit. It just didn't get where it needed to be. So I will continue to look at that. I'm probably going to take the control panel off too, so we can look at the back of it, make sure everything looks good. But I can go into test too and mess with it. But whenever I go to the drive board test, it doesn't move left or right or anything because you've got the error. But when you go into the to test the actual steering, it works fine. But I think there might be a couple pots or whatever, so we're probably going to have to look at the back of the steering wheel. So maybe that's next. Okay, so we're going to pull that control panel off here in a minute, but before I do that, every time I turn it on, I'm getting like a pop noise. It's kind of a little worrisome. So I think what I'm going to do is swap out this old power supply with a new one. This one has it's a very expensive power supply, but you can update it to a more modern, a little bit cheaper one. So we're going to try that. And the way that we're going to do that is the old ones, they took these special little Sega connectors. So what you can do is you can cut them on this side of the power supply. And then put a new Molex connector on it that plugs into the Molex connectors on the new style power supply. So we're going to do that and see what happens. But this thing, you can see how it's dusty and dirty. That's probably the original one. And a new one, I think, is $350, something like that, which is crazy. Power supplies are usually 20, 30, 40 bucks. So let me get my stuff together and my vacuum cleaner to clean up a little bit more of that, and we'll see if we can get another one in there real pretty. So when we got it back from Ken, he sent this little piece of paper with it. It says, have you got power issues on your Sega Model 3? Convert your Model 3 Naomi 2 Hikaru systems to ATX style PSU. And so he's showing a little diagram here. Your power supply goes into two 9-pin Molexes, and then it goes over to the terminal strip. Or it says, or just connect cab wiring directly to Molex. Game board. Okay, and he says, purchase ATX style PSU from HAP Controls, such as 44-1095-00. I bought one from Twisted Quarter that's got the same specifications, basically. He says, these have two 9-pin Molex connectors for DC outs. AC in is a molded computer plug or 3-pin Molex. Both 5 and 3.3 volts are adjustable. Remember that Sega colors on power are yellow for 5 volts, brown for 3.3 volts, red for 12 volts, and white for logic ground returns. So that's what we're going to do. And I've got my connectors and stuff ready to do it with. Got the new power supply in, got it all screwed down, got all of the new connectors connected. I did a new little power one over there, and it's still up and running, looking good. Such a cool game. It's gonna be fun to play it eventually. And on our drive board, we're getting 8. It's been, I took a little time off in between working on this thing, so we're getting 8 blank 8 dot blank 8 dots. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to be or not. And I set the power with my trusty Fluke multimeter, so I think we've got the power right now. So now we can move on to that drive board. Let's go into the test menu and just see if see what it's doing. Alright, so it says select with test, select with service button and enter with test. So let's go to, well, if it'll let me. Drive board test, that's what we want. Okay. Roll right, and it did. Roll left, and it did. Set center of steer. I don't know if that's right. Oh, I should go to stop motor, right? Stop motor. Okay, so it's telling me that the center of steering should be 80. So if I put this in the middle, I'm right on 80. That strikes me as working fine. Down here we got 8, 8, 8, 8. Let me see if I move it, if it does anything. Oh yeah, okay. So you basically, it does some little stuff on the wheel. On the board. So I think that's all fine now. I don't know what, I thought whenever we stopped that something wasn't right, but. So that's what it does when it starts, it just shakes a little bit. But everything looks good, so I'm gonna watch it a little while and let's see what we can get into next on it. Okay, so we buttoned it all back up. The sound was acting up a little bit, so I thought there was something going on with the sound. But what we figured out was, after looking and looking and looking, they had the sound plugged in backwards. So the sound on this game is incredible, but there's 4 different things kind of going on. So there is a announcer who says, like, pick a track, select a track, and stuff like that, and or he'll say select a car, yeah, driver, start your engines, things like that. Well, the way it was before, that announcer was in these rear speakers. So there's 2 front speakers, one on each side of the monitor, and then there's 2 rear speakers on each side of your head, and then I think this is a speaker in here too that's more like a bass speaker. So he was saying all of the announcements back here in your ears, and then whenever the car would start, there is a engine noise that's considerable. So the whole time you're playing it, it's going, you know, like the engine's revving. And that was also in the back. So you had to keep that really low because it's loud as hell. And then the music plays as well. And so the music was in the front. And then the guy that's the pit crew plays, and he was in the front. So I eventually, it didn't sound right. And you can adjust the front speakers and the back speakers. I couldn't get it right. And then I finally figured out that somebody had swapped a couple sound lines in the bottom. When I reversed those, it all made sense. So the front speaker adjustment adjusted the front speakers. The rear speaker adjustment adjusted the rear speakers. The music is played on the front. I mean, the engine sound is played on the front of the front speakers, which would make sense because the engine's in the front. The announcer's comments are in the front of the machine. The headphones where the guy's saying, "This is the pit crew," and it's a little bit distorted because he's talking to you over a radio, is on these back speakers, and then the music plays on these back speakers so you can hear it while you're playing. So it all made sense after that. So we got the sound right, and like I showed you, the drive board, I guess that error 20 thing was just, it had only done it one time. And if you read that manual wherever we read it, it was telling me that the way to fix it is to turn it off and back on. So it could just be that it was a one-time fluke thing. After we got all that done, we took the old light fixture out of the top up here that was destroyed, threw it in the trash, and we put a nice new LED light fixture. You can buy these light fixtures at Lowe's and things that they're about $10, where they're a string of LEDs, but it runs off 120 volts. So we use them in arcade cabinets. I'm not a huge fan of LEDs just because I don't like when they look different, but you know, they're better in about every way. They take less power, they last longer, all that. And in a situation like this where it's behind that sign, you can't tell if that's an LED or the original bulb. It looks great. So a little bit of an upgrade. The only thing we've got left to do is we've got to clean it up a little bit. So I'm gonna scrub this thing. Scrub. And then the only thing left to do is to play it. So I'll start it just so you see that the thing's up and running. Oh yeah, I forgot about this screen. Wow, I had forgotten about that.
Please select the race course.
So you can hear that there's music in these back speakers.
Begin. Please select the level of the car.
We cleaned the glass on the monitor.
Please choose manual or automatic transmission.
Manual or automatic transmission.
Automatic. Gentlemen, start your engines.
All right, it's got a rolling start. But no gas. No gas. I'm not on the gas pedal, folks. Oh, and I still ran into the wall. Whoa. Whoa. What's it doing? Let's see if they hit me when they come back by. Here they come. That was nice of them to all go behind me. not one of them hit me. That's pretty good. All right, so there you go. I'll stop the video here. I'm going to film a different video of us playing it and everything so that we can really get into it. But this video is pretty long. But we've got the thing completely fixed. It needs a little more cosmetic work. We're going to clean it up a little bit more. But pretty much it's ready for someone's game room. But before it rolls off to someone's game room, I'll make sure that we play it.
Your place, 40th.
I'll make sure that we play it and get a good video of us. Game over of us playing it for you so you can see what all the tracks are like and everything. And by the way, this is the Power Edition too. This is the updated one. It's got an extra car, which is the original car from the original Daytona USA. And it's got the graphics on the first track are different. Things like that. So there you are. So leave your comments below. Let us know what you think about it so far. Give us a thumbs up for taking the trouble to film it. And we will see you on the next video. Daytona.